Not quite accurate text is not quite accurate, so I'll just leave it like that for now, with Rifkin there and no webcam. But,
Where's
yeah,
my
not
my
solo
handsome as
casting.
fuck I'm outside picture, man? It's like the best picture I have of me.
Because that's not on this overlay, and I have to go find it in the folders.
Well,
That
heaven forbid,
sounds like a pain.
heaven forbid you come
Cause
prepared for the finals, zombie grub.
I mean, I was
Uh,
prepared for the finals where I'm solo casting, so get wrecked.
ooh, ooh, yeah.
Oh shit.
That that stings.
Oof.
That's worse than that polysporin shit you put on an open wound. Speaking of which, I know a lot about that. Hey guys, so you probably missed me from the channel for about a week. Some of you have probably enjoyed Zombie casting without me, but for those that don't know quite what's going on with my life, you haven't seen any of the videos or the updates. I got in a pretty bad accident about a week ago. I'm still not fully recovered, and if I had the strength in me, I would stick out the entire cast today, but I don't think I should because it hurts just to even sit upright like this. So, TLDR, collarbone, elbow, wrist are broken. Unfortunately, it's all on different sides, so technically both my arms are disabled. Oh, I'm disabled. And I did want to help with the finals, so I'm here for the third place, fourth place match, but you guys are going to have to enjoy the solo casting stylings of Zombie Grove for the best of 9 grand finals between Solar and Beyond.
Hmm.
Now, we oftentimes on a cast will talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff that you guys don't really see when it comes to like events coming together. And last night we did have a bit of a headache with this. So I'm really glad that things have turned out to be about as normal as they should be, what with our third place match ready to go. But we had to almost find replacements for Patience, and we didn't know what to really do about this because there's so many players in that round of 8, and then we decided like it might be better to just advance blind, have 2 other players come back and play for the 4th place prize, or we didn't really know what to do because Patience had basically been confirmed for a long time to play today, and then last moment said, "Oh, my team needs me to practice, so I might not be able to." And we really like Patience. You've probably heard us fondly talk about him in regards to Lima League and our interactions with him at Home Story Cup and other events. Like, we really do love Patience. But I told him, like, dude, as much as we like you, there's rules, and if you don't show up, you're not going to get any prize money. So I guess that was enough motivation to have him actually come out to play, which is nice. So best of 3 as Patience and Bly are just finishing up vetoes as we speak.
Yeah. So Patience, I guess this happened yesterday too. I don't know what chat they're typing in, but it's not the Lumi League chat, which is the other thing we're part of, and it's not the BaseTradeTV chat, but both of them didn't chat the correct one yesterday, and now Patience has only just realized he was typing the wrong chat, so we're almost ready to go with
Almost.
the vetoes. So it's a best of 3, not very long at all. I mean, probably take less than an hour, especially because Bly is usually pretty aggressive. But the way they're going to do these vetoes is just veto down to 3 maps, and then Patients choose the first map and losers pick. Like, nothing very fancy at all. And then, of course, the finals is a best of 9, so that has no vetoes and actually has 2 maps that are going to be replayed potentially if it goes to 8 or 9 maps, which the players do know about and are prepared for. I mean, ideally, they're going to just win 5-0, of course, but, that's ideal. And, other things to talk about, I suppose, besides, the sponsors. We'll get to in a second. I am, sorry. He's just saying we. I'm going to be casting beyond the TING finals today.
Yeah.
There's a show match between the USA and France for like a kind of like a show match for like the underdogs thing that O Gaming does. So that should be fun. Probably gonna be pretty tired by then, but hopefully I can be okay. Not great.
Ah, this is where, were I able to cast with you, I would excitedly tell you to go get some coffee.
Yeah. Well, I have my Red Bull, and I bought pre-made coffee, like, cappuccino type deal from the Korean store that I went to. So, I'm pretty hype about that. Okay. First map's going to be New Gettysburg, and then we can get into it. Oh my goodness. Let's do it. Thank you to Super Saiyan 2, Super 2. I was gonna pronounce it,
Hey, so
phonetically.
I got a quick question for you, Zambergo.
Thanks for the 19-month resub. What?
Who do you think is going to win this third place match between Patience and Bly?
Bly? Because Patience didn't look very good yesterday.
I guess I was a little bit surprised at the results, but at the same time, it is somebody like Solar, so it's not like, oh my god, I can't believe he lost to a nobody. But I want to just say, like, I think Bly's got a good chance, not because of Patience's like good or badness, it's just his weirdness that won versus Neeb. Like, that really stuck with me, the way he got here.
Yeah. So, I mean, that combined, yeah, absolutely, that he beat Neeb 3-0. I'd actually give this to Bly. You know, it's been only 24 hours since Patience just lost to a Zerg and was, like, kind of complaining to, like, oh, Zerg's too good in the matches, so I'll give it to him. But I have been massively wrong on all of my predictions in that bracket game, so nailed it. And I'm pretty bad lately for predictions. Oh well. In the bottom right, as the blue Zerg, he is Bly.
Of course, Bly, quick for those who don't know, playing from China currently, actually. So, bit of an interesting server setup, as China to Korea is much different than Europe to Korea. But as he sends that early drone out, I think we know what that's going to be for. In the bottom left, it's the pink Protoss, Afrika Freaks Patience.
Yeah, ideally, even if this series only lasts, like, damn, like even 20 minutes, the other players will already be ready to go, since I gave them an approximate time of an hour. And it's not a bad time in Korea right now.
So to talk about this drone and the proxy and all this goodness, I mean, if you're a big fan of BaseTradeTV, if you tuned in for that round of 8, you saw Bly do this 3 games in a row, 3 games up, 3 games down, and shut Neeb down every single time. I think there's a lot of strength to this, and especially when you've got somebody like Bly behind the wheels. But I feel like this is also something that might catch Patience off guard here in game 1, but I don't know would actually work, you know, 2 or 3 games in a row like he had the success versus Neeb.
That is the question, isn't it? No, poor Probe, you won't be able to scout this hatchery.
Oh,
Feels
no.
bad. I mean, that is why Bly does it there, of course. But, he's going to be able to see eventually that there's no hatchery here, and there's no hatchery here. And then he'll figure out what's going on. But by then, the drones would have already been starting to build spine crawlers.
And I like that Bly takes the long way around the map. Not only does the probe not scout this, I mean, right now, no hatchery, big red flag, but not only does he not scout the 3 drones, they also don't risk getting blocked out by the on the bridge by the pylon. So this is Bly playing this about as close to the vest as he needs to, considering what he's doing. That gas, like, almost a bit of a fake question mark? Oh no, he took 100 for the speed, just timed out perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the spine crawlers are going to be more impactful, but eventually having speed is obviously helpful, especially if you can still afford 3 spine crawlers, a queen, and however many lings you can with your larva. Then totally, you know, more power to you. The Overlord, of course, nothing to really be done about that unless it dies to a photon overcharge, which it definitely shouldn't. So that's going to provide high ground vision first, the natural, which isn't really need, as that's almost forfeit, I feel, but definitely to the main base as well for those spine crawlers. I mean, Bly beat Neeb with styles like this 3-0 when he faced him. He actually took a game off of Bjorn with his exact same build on Dasan Station. It could be very strong, and people just sometimes also don't know how to defend against it.
Well, as you say, Patience does have a robo coming down pretty quick. I do think he's likely to lose the natural, but you guys got to keep in mind, as much damage as Bly does, he's got less workers. He's also only on 1 base. Oh, these adepts are not in a great spot. That surround on a bridge was not something Patience was expecting, and oh no.
Yeah.
Now there's going to be drop overloads coming at some point too to get right into that main, so no wall off is going to protect them. I mean, Patience, this is a rough way to start a series.
Yeah. Well, he was the one that chose to do Gettysburg, but he probably didn't bother, I think, researching his opponents. The Neeb games were played a while ago, and I think more importantly he was focusing on facing like Solar, for instance, right? And unfortunately still got 4-0'd. Not really paying attention to what Bly did, so this is probably a complete surprise to him. There are some maps that you literally, like, Bly cannot do proxy hatch on, you know? Like any 4-player map, it's going to be very hard to do. Maybe knowing that, he would have chosen something, you know, like Frost, but I don't think he knew.
I just want to comment on the SimCity here out of Patience. That worked out really well for him. Now the Immortal's out, and that first pylon in the front might go down, but he does have pylons powering his other buildings, so still not too bad. And with this strange hallway he's created, there's still a choke for him to work around. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's losing a gateway, the pylon, he doesn't have a lot of control, but again, I need to emphasize back at home, Bly doesn't have big leads. He is committed to this.
Yeah. The gateways going down can be very important. One was not powered, the other one went down, obviously, and this one's also going to go down. I think... Can I mention the summoner score? I'm not sure about that, but the fact that there are speedlings too, not just slowlings, but actually both might be able to cut it. If they ever get on top of those immortals, they're actually going to chew them down pretty quickly. There's not a lot of fodder for them.
Yeah, unfortunately, the anti-air is not so sufficient right now to take out those overlords and remove that part of the equation. Sentry is now being forced to use force fields. This is the only way to keep those links from coming up. That's in range of the cyber core somehow. Oh, that's not good.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering about that. So that is pretty bad. That's the lack of sentries right there to stop the links from getting in, but they got in anyway. So, womp womp. And there's not... It's a very bad position. You can still do something for it. He's trying to get a War Prism.
Yeah, he's going to go offensive with it, which I think is an interesting choice. You warp in like 1 or 2 Adepts on the other side of the field, and Bly's just going to lose everything. Patience, by the way, still holding on with his Sim City, still keeping the force fields down, so those Lings can't really engage on this. I mean, credit goes where it's due, and he's holding this really well, but it might still not be enough to win the game. He doesn't actually have that many gateways, so he can only warp in one Adept on the other side of happen. Okay, 2 and 3 is these gateways start finishing up, but still, he needs defensive warp-ins, he needs offensive warp-ins. The third Immortal not going to complete just barely. Oh, no.
Yeah. I mean, he was supply blocked. He is supply blocked again as he warps in those 2 Zealots, actually, not Adepts. And Bly was, like, a little prepared for this. That really shouldn't do a whole lot. I don't mind the offensive War Prism, or even a War Prism to try and get on the low ground if you've held your high ground. But the Spine Callers are up here, and that's usually when it's game over. And the Spine Callers are actually up on that high ground. Unless you have a very big army to contest it, which Patience almost got to.
Well, while this was on the other side of the map, that Warp Prism had to pick up the Zealots, almost died. Now paired up with some Adepts that just freshly warped in, but Patience, his control is insane. Like, a day of practicing with his team has done wonders to show, like, what a Protoss player can do in this situation, but it's still not going to be enough.
Those are the last of the force fields? There's one more? Almost. The Militia Core does pop out in time to kill a Spine Crawler, which was useful, despite there being transfuses.
Yeah, almost gets the second one. Spine Car getting really low.
Transfuse!
Oh, my God, with 3 health.
Oh, I guess he's saving transfuse for the Queens.
Force fields are good. Lings get baited back to the mineral line to take out one of the sentries, but the Immortal's still alive. The Immortal's still going strong. 20 kills on one, 14 on the other. I mean, these things are everything to Patience.
Yeah.
Other side of the map, he still has those 2 Zealots and 2 Adepts. Could send those in, but all of the focus and all of the control of the game right now focused on his home base defense.
He is so close to just running out of space. I mean, he's rebuilt Time Expert twice, the Robo twice.
Killing him.
Yeah, the creep is starting to spread forward. There's still a live creep to Merwinger.
Supply block that Immortal.
Well, now he's on supply blocked, but without losing the pylon.
This is so crazy.
I do think this is game over. Patience was pretty close, I want to say, to holding it. That might have been a little bold with the Lings to go in for that.
Because now there's nothing to keep those Immortals off. The Spine Crawlers, those are going to go
that
down
went south really quickly. He just kills the Spine Crawlers too, and suddenly Patience actually is looking okay. When the Lings are protecting the Spine Crawlers, they can continue advancing.
Look
oh my God!
It's a bit late now, but look what happened on the other side of the map. If you're still in the game, oh, I guess Game Heart closes it.
See it.
Patience had put those 2 Zealots and 2 Adepts to block out the reinforcements, and that's why there was no additional Lings coming in. So cutting those reinforcements off, combined with that perhaps overextension out of Bly, that was a really sweet last-second defense. And I gotta tell you, like 9 out of 10 times that game gets played, I think that goes in the favor of Bly. Like, that was insane.
Yeah, well, it did work against Sneeb 3 times in a row, but yeah, the Lings not being able to be reinforced, having like twice as many definitely could have helped, and he probably could have pounced on those sentries like he did if he had twice as much, but I don't know if he saw like the doom and gloom, like he realized he was on a timer because the Robo was back up behind it, but I just thought the more Spine Crawlers advance, eventually he gets the Nexus, right? And then there's a bigger concave for his Lings to get, combined with the Queens, combined with the Spine Crawlers, once Patience runs out of patience and pushes out. But it was like Bly that ran out of patience. So...
Well, he ran into patience.
That was a quick turnaround in the last second. That's...
That was cool though. Like I really like even with that last second blitz or whatever you want to call it, that was really well handled out of Patience, just through and through. And I gotta admire his control through that game.
Yeah, keeping the Immortals alive is pretty important. And keeping a clear head while that happens is important as well.
Yeah, we'll go over it once we get back into the game as well. But quick reminder for what these two players are fighting for. It's a difference of $600 and $400. Not a crazy intense amount compared to the $2,000, $1,000 for first and second place. But $600 is a considerable amount of money for the third place slot, and $400 for fourth still isn't bad. But more money is better, and I think that's what these guys have to shoot for.
Sure. Well, Frozen Temple is Bly's second map choice. I don't remember what his third map was available. So I'm great. But this is another map that you could technically Spinecrawler rush on.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to really stress this. I think some people might see this for the first time and be like, wow, what a noob Zerg, he can only rely on cheese. And it's not really the case. Bly does this with some degree of finesse and not just proxy, like, brute force.
Yeah. I mean, he does it so often that there is that stigma against him. But then we also saw, if you guys were around yesterday, that he also showcased macro games. And while his macro games are still pretty aggressive, definitely different than, you know, like Snoot macro games, they were still, I think, impressive as, you know, games that go on for 15, 20 minutes go. But Frozen Temple is the map, and still no drone being sent out. Might be okay. There we go. Okay, in the top left as the Blue Zerg, he is Bly.
And of course, taking a sneaky route around the map once again so he doesn't get scouted. In the bottom right, currently up 1 point in this best of 3, third place bronze finish match. It's going to be Freak of Freaks, Pink Protoss, Patience. And of course, just quick reminders that the difference of $600 and $400 between third and fourth place, provided all thanks to our sponsors of the event, TING. bttv.ting.com to go learn more about them. But also, if you missed the announcement, they just significantly lowered the price of their data. So if you're a United States resident, check out Ting.
Yeah. The proxy hatch gets put down, and Patience is yet again not going to be able to scout it. That's the whole purpose of the exact positioning here, because it really is quite close to scouting it. And honestly, like, you know, we see people who commonly play against Bly just bother to kind of like move a little bit to the north and then move a little bit to the south, and then they go for the regular scout. And it doesn't take that much time off of it, but Patience might still not be quite believing that Bly can do this twice, much just like, you know, like once. And he scouts the third. Of course, a lot of Zergs taking their third as their natural nowadays. Then scouts the naturals, like, oh, wait a second. And sees the drones. This is like a lot sooner than last game where the drones went around. Of course, that was only a difference of scouting the build, like, I think like 5-10 seconds at most. Because he did see the lack of a natural shortly after the drones left. But it's always better to have that. And maybe he'll have a zealot to add in the mix now. Of course, he does wall off at the front. So chances are he's going to have to wall off the main again.
Well, so this is where this game becomes drastically worse for him, though. Because he's walled up at the front, this is where all his tech's going to be. He didn't have to rebuild a second cyber core until, 10 minutes into that game. This time he's going to have to rebuild one pretty quick. But the Zealot's going to get some nice work done on one of the spine crawlers. I can't say it's going to kill all three, but it is going to help shut this down from being super abusive. Yeah,
it really does help, and we've actually seen Bly. I feel like he stopped this for a long time because Protosses were generally scouting it. Again, like the probe bothered to go up like a centimeter north, and that they would chrono out these earlier units, and killing or canceling one, maybe even two spine crawlers is a pretty big deal. He doesn't get the second one canceled, and the other one's like rebuilt pretty immediately here. It's not the same situation. We've actually seen this completely shut down before. But he's going to try and hold this natural base. The gateway is almost forfeit. Yeah, I think it's always going to be forfeit.
The fact that this doesn't get a sentry out, though, could be devastating. Force fields were massively instrumental into Patience's defense in that last game.
Yeah. Does he have any more already on the way? No, he went for the Robo very quickly once he realized what was going down.
I think the Robo's a better choice than this, like any priority on gateways. You need to break those spine crawlers, but with the Lings getting in, this isn't good. He backs away from that hole in the wall. Speed finishes up. GG, it's called. And a very quick game number 2 ties up the series 1-1.
Amazing.
Well, I didn't expect us to go to a commercial break so early, but I guess with only one game remaining here in the bronze place match, we'll see you guys in a couple of minutes.
Welcome back. Thanks for watching those ads. We are in the final map, which I figured out to be Galactic Process. I have the smirts.
Another 2-player map where basically if Patience goes Nexus quickly, he could just lose the series.
Yeah, I didn't pay that close attention to who vetoed what, but I did realize that like Bly vetoed Frost, because I was like, oh, that's a pretty common map to have in a map pool. That might have been it. No, he vetoed it. So this might have been Bly's plan all along, was to like kind of like steer it, you know, yeah, Mad Genius style, like steer it so that like, oh, that's odd, he's getting rid of all the 4-base. I don't think about it. But I actually have no idea. That would be interesting, but not uncommon for Bly to win through only cheese in a best of series. And here he is in the top right as the Blue Zerg. It is Bly.
With 99% of his units. That one, of course, going on the map. And, ooh, an early probe scout out of his opponent. We'll see if this pays off. In the bottom left, it's going to be the Pink Protoss Patience. Both players have tied it up now 1-1 in this third place match. Again, a reminder of 600 versus $400 for third and fourth place match placement, respectively. But what I find really interesting about this is, like, Patience, I really hope he's not hoping to put a pylon block down. Bly did this last time we saw him on Galactic Process as well, where this wasn't something that had to do with a proxy hatchery outside your base, per se. This is more old school, back in the days of, like, Overgrowth styling's way of doing this.
Yeah, I kind of forgot, but when it was going towards the goal, I was like, oh, that's right. It's in Galactic Process, and this really is almost like mad scientist type deal. Like, the way that this best of 3 has panned out feels so much like Bly was just, like, secretly rubbing his hands together, right? Like, yes, this is how it's gonna happen. That he would get 2 maps that he could proxy hatch, and then the third one he could change things up and still, you know, put a hatchery in proximity to his opponents, but not quite in the same way. So Patience thinks he knows what's going on, when really he doesn't.
Well, this is where you hear people talk about mind games a lot in StarCraft 2, and I think this is a great example of it, because Patience did go for, like, Gateway first. Not to say, like, oh my god, he didn't throw the Nexus at all, he did take the Nexus afterwards, but this really speaks to the somewhat paranoia levels that are established by Bly in these first 2 games.
Yeah. I mean, this is quite good stuff for Bly, to be honest. Just any different order, like he chooses Galactic Process second, and maybe, you know, the third game, which would have been last game we saw, Frozen Temple, Patience scouts exactly what's going on. Now, I don't think that pylon saw the probe drone transfer. No, it didn't. How that drone went forward, but she does like, hey, wait, what's going on? And sees the gold.
All right, so I want to speak on this point because we brought this up before. Foreigners and Koreans play very different. Bly, playing as cheesy as he does, probably plays a little bit closer to a lot of the way Koreans do than necessarily anyone else, but we still don't see Koreans play this style of cheesy. So for Patience, I don't really know how well practiced he is versus this. You want to just simply say, like, oh, it's a gold base, we've seen this a billion times, but that's not actually the case at all. You never see this, ever.
Yeah, it is quite rare. Quite Bly-ish. The pylon finally goes down. We'll see what Bly chooses to do. I mean, back when you think about the Overgrowth games, somewhat Happy Sensation, and like whatever other maps you can think of that have a gold base, even like Van Eye Research Station, there were 2 choices. You could use this earlier saturation to have an earlier, you know, full-fledged attack, a stronger one, at least, or you could actually play a macro game off of it. It seemed a little clumsy and weird because you are technically defending a base that is so far away. But the thing is that Patience also doesn't know what exactly Bly wants to do. So, of course, he has to think about what is the most concerning, which is dying immediately, which is an all-in. So he's probably going to be over-defensive if Bly does go for this massive greed behind it. Of course, he's going for a little bit. Like, he is droning up, and he's getting a third base, but he's also getting a Roach Warren and Burrow, so I feel at any point, yeah, he's about to turn on the aggression.
Really weird to look at the base and consider that a third, by the way. But Overlord getting morphed in here to the south, ready to go for a drop, so Bly will be able to get something in past this massive wall. I do want to quickly take a moment, though, before the action heats up, to give a bit of a shotgun shout-out to Super Saiyan 2 for the 19 months, Das Tier for the 6th month, Bruce Moose 96 for the 6 months, Phoenix 636 for the 15 months, and then Zarfield just now for the 19-month resub. Sorry that we missed those guys, but just want to give some love to you before I disappear today.
Just want to note that I didn't miss Super Saiyan. please.
Okay, well, I was just covering my bases because we missed like 5.
Yeah. Anyway, the Lings get in here, but I think it was expected by Patience, who saw the Lings kind of making odd turnarounds and whatnot.
The Oracle got a couple of kills with this one on. Not
4.
much, but 4.
Yeah, not too big of a deal. I mean, technically also got the Spore Crawler made in these bases. But important thing is that it lives, and it will be the scouts for the most part. I guess it's the second Oracle and Mothership Core.
This creep spread, just... I'm making that, like, just right motion with my hand if I could. But really nicely set out across the map, thanks to that proxy base. 2 Oracles come in to try and shred some drones at the gold. It's going to get a couple more kills, but honestly, not much considering it's 2 Oracles. The Voider is a very interesting follow-up, too, on top of all this.
Yeah, it is one of those things where, like, again, this is Patience not knowing exactly what Bly has in mind. Patience went through the days of overgrowth, and he knows that there's a couple different possibilities for what is a gold base taken. So for him to worry about first and foremost dealing with low-tech units like Lings and Roaches, that is somewhere where the Voider looks very good. If he was wrong and Bly is actually getting a lair and going up to a Hydralisk den, well then maybe the Stargate wasn't the greatest choice to go for first, but it is just Lings and Roaches. And if it's going to be Queens, well the Queens are going to come way, you know, hopefully later, and the Voider's actually going to get some kills before then. Slowly moving away across the map. Interestingly, he chooses to go back here, but that is not a ramp.
Patience does have that probe in the smoke, so he can actually see the rocks coming down. He knows that there's going to be attack coming from this direction, and his third base, truthfully, not that well protected. He's hitting that point right now where he's about to have enough of a mobile army, immortals and whatnot, to move between 2 different bases, but he's not quite there. That's a decent stalker count, but that's a lot more Ravagers, Lings, and Roaches.
Yeah, the Queen's also going to be added in eventually. They're trying to walk forward here. Post Ravagers are going to disappear, and he has 2 more for sure. Oh, that wasn't supposed to happen.
No, those are supposed to be continual vision through the smoke. Because, of course, for those who don't know, the smoke provides like the equivalent of high ground vision. You can't see through it. Now, there's a couple of force fields ready to go, but a couple of force fields won't do much. As again, Bly's got Ravagers. You can just break them.
Yeah, he does break them, as well as trying to get those sentries. Doesn't quite get them, but the Voider would love to help out right here, and it probably should just be targeting right now, but I think it's hotkeeping the rest of his army, because the Queens are so far behind, but...
That's the thing, too. I think he's intentionally keeping it back because of said Queens, but... Well, the third base might go down. I do want to point out, Patience pulled his probes almost immediately, so he only loses 5 through this attack. Honestly, manageable beyond this if his army's big enough to beat back Bly one time. But that's the problem. You've got to beat him back that one time. With 5 Queens, nothing really wants to die.
Yeah, and I mean, the Voider, he's been, you know, obviously seen by Bly. He's not going to leave... He's not going to lead his Roaches into its death without the Queen shortly behind. Now his army all together has a lot of transfuses, opening up a closer pathway to get in here. Revelation, definitely useful.
I would absolutely agree. I mean, right now, Patience has to gauge the size of his opponent's army very carefully to decide where he can fight. I love this Stasis Ward. We'll see if this traps units on a retreat or reinforcement path, but it's almost half the army supply with a +1 advantage. Is that going to be enough to make this work? One Immortal cut out in the open. Maybe it was bait, maybe it wasn't, but he does end up taking a decent fight with a couple of photon overcharge shots. I do want to point out as well, Patience, for one of the first times we've seen him ever, has autocast on his Immortals. Normally, he's able to, you know, keep that disabled and focus a lot on his Immortals for control. I think there's a lot going on in this game, and the fact that he's got that on autocast says a lot about what's happening.
So his traps being put down everywhere now, and that is pretty damn cool. Spore Color's about to front lines. Didn't even notice that.
I don't think it's going to catch like 18 Ravagers or anything in the Stasis Trap, but just the fact that it could cut out any amount of army supply is very helpful.
If it does. Unfortunately, Overloads can't shoot through. Queen's got the front lines a little bit. They don't want to lose their transfuses for nothing. They do get the Void Ray. Bye-bye.
I mean, straighting out a Void Ray and a couple of Adepts for a Queen, not really worth it as we can see. Does continue to kite backwards. He's waiting for a couple more overcharges. Bly doesn't want to get baited into this. But now there's 5 Immortals, and we're getting to this point where, honestly, Patience's army might be able to brute force his way through 2 more coming out behind this.
Yeah, Lings are now flooding in, and of course Bly, he got the 4th base, he got the lair, he's getting his upgrades. He could, I think, technically retreat from this. And he might have been better off retreating from this, turning into more Ravagers, waiting for more Lings.
I want to point out that what was almost a double army supply difference is now a difference of like 3. Bly has done a pretty good job up to this point canceling that 3rd. but he should really be focused more, I think, on the base to the north rather than his natural. On top of the fact that he's got 4 bases of his own behind it, there's no reason to overcommit.
Yeah, I really wish he had backed off, gotten the lings on the third base, like you said, and with that layer gone up to like Hydralisk. I mean, Bly, if he had the gas, maybe even tries to go for like a Muto swap. That could have been something that I could see Bly doing for sure. But Hydralisk would have been that next step, and unfortunately, he's still waiting on it.
He's going to try and engage on top of this, but there's no link support.
God.
So Roaches versus Immortals. Patience with what is 8 Immortals doing a great amount of damage as he just pushes his way through. Excuse me, 7 I can count.
The point is a lot, so I think Patience might have this. He needs fodder just in case there is this Ling Flood, but there's really not that much of a Ling Flood going down. And again, Bly, he was certainly... His macro was certainly lopsided. Yeah, he only just now takes his gases at what was his natural, keep in mind. And of course, his 4th base wasn't immediately saturated either, because he didn't really ever have that many drones. But it's all important to his gas count. He was banking like 1,500 minerals at one point. And again, consider that could have been so many more roaches. That could have been the transition to something with that lair tech. I mean, even infestors would have been helpful. But staying on the lair tech when there's already so many immortals... or the ground tech rather, the hatchery tech is going to be usually not so good.
Well, the Stasis Trap did end up catching something, but only one roach, sadly, and that's getting camps.
Poor guy.
Nobody likes camping Patience in any game.
Right? Are both oracles still alive? Nah, one died.
Actually, I take it back. The Boy Scouts might be okay with that.
Maybe.
Camping.
I get it. I do. I understand.
All right. That army supply though from Bly, he helped bridge the gap a little bit, but this was a lot of things like roaches, not hydras, not lings. That supply not so efficient against what is again such a heavy immortal count. I do like this idea of burrow and tunneling claws though. What's kind of cool to consider is if he could get a full surround of these units by burrowing underneath them, he might not actually take that bad of a fight. But still, at the end of the day, immortals are just super effective versus roaches.
Yeah. Base trade? He does catch maybe 2 immortals, a handful of stalkers. Maybe. They're actually taking a pretty damn good fight for what's available. Global base does go down, but that's something that Bly, I think, could have been okay with, especially if he had just transferred the drones immediately. Yeah. The gases, unfortunately, had not been taken for so long, but he took this other base.
This roach attack, this attempted base trade, is turning out to be a little bit better for him than I think even he was anticipating. Now, tunneling claws is done. He's got burrow. He's killing a lot of Patience's base over here, but at the same time, Patience is moving into his natural, up that ramp with a lot of immortals, and he doesn't have a lot of defense back at home.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, taking out the third base is great. Taking down whatever units he could as well, though the stalkers tried to run away. But at the end of the day, he needs to eventually get back, or has to deal with Patience getting, like, either one. At some point, their armies are gonna collapse in on each other, and that's where Bly still loses. Like, he just like straight up added lings now.
Look at that. He waited so long to reveal that he had burrow. Now he's going to get on top of the sentries. Oh, they were ready to force field him, but not quite yet. Does unburrow on top of the immortal. Its barriers on cooldown goes down immediately, and Bly ends up killing all of Patience's defense. Now back at home, he's of course still dying. I want to emphasize that, but we are in East 1, East 2, full on base trade territory.
Yeah. I definitely still want to give it as a Patience, but I am a little worried that like a literal base race might still not go in his favor. Like getting the probes out, getting the pylons out. Bly still has enough for like gas extractors all over the place. Not quite enough for a hatchery though, and that is pretty important.
Well, this went be the best third place match I think we could have hoped for.
Yeah.
Really crazy game 1, game 2, with a very intense, very close game 3. But it does still feel like, yeah, with Patience building a Nexus on this side of the map, looks like he's gonna be the one to lock this down. He would have to make a massive mistake for this to fall.
Oh, Bly's about to be revealed too. Can't do anything about it.
Oh yeah, he's got an extractor at the gold, a couple drones to the south. It's a shame he just barely doesn't have money to build a hatchery. Not that I think he could even recover with one anyways. Roach is doing everything they can to kill stuff in the main, desperately trying to knock this down.
So, you know, if he had like 20 lings, I mean, if he had like 40 lings, that'd be great. But even like just 20 lings, I think this already goes like that much quicker that I'm a little more hopeful. But roaches kill things pretty damn slow, and they're not going to be able to like focus fire this down that quickly with so many immortals covering it.
So here's the thing about this that's kind of important. If Patience actually had no observer, we have the rare instance of tunneling claws, Bly could actually hold up on a ramp, because this army can't bust through roaches quickly. He can actually hold up on a ramp, buy time, and send 3 roaches out, burrow, tunneling claws, whatever, and deny mining. This game could have been very different if Patience didn't have the foresight to keep those observers alive. If they had been willy-nilly controlled or thrown over to a spore crawler. Like there's a lot of ways this could have gone very poorly for him. But this is this should be his game. He's gonna put everything on the line to try and attack this base up to the north. I think he has an idea. It's here. He doesn't know for sure. Oh, he does. He actually scouted it. Take that back.
Yeah. No, it's really unfortunate. Besides those lings I was mentioning, is that Bly never got to make any Ravagers. That's something that you poke and leave, get the high ground, leave, that type of deal, and can actually maybe bring back a game. But just numbers is not good for Bly. He's gonna try. Not much can be done. There's pylons here now too, in case it was a literal base race.
An admiral attempt.
Yeah, GG.
All right, congratulations to Patience. So finished 3rd place here for the Ting Open Season 2. Bly will take 4th place. Bly getting $400 for this, and Patience getting $600. But for those who are a little confused on formatting, guys, this was the 3rd place match played first, now to be followed up by the best of 9 grand finals between Beyond and Solar.
Yep.
Now, unfortunately, and I was really hoping to have a little bit more chutzpah, or what we're going to call it, it's hurting a lot to sit here for even just this one best of 3, so I do not believe I'll be able to join you for the best of 9.
Well, that was to be expected. I thought you were going to talk about how... There was a very interesting word that you used, first of all. Second of all.
Mojo, baby.
That, it did end a little bit earlier than ideal. Lasted 36 minutes total, but...
It's not too bad considering who we had playing, though. I really expected this to be quite a short series.
That could have been 2 proxy hatches immediately lost, or immediately won.
Yeah. Well, consider how close that first game was. This could have been, yeah, a 10-minute series. Funny enough to consider. But before I disappear, guys, I want to talk about a couple things. First, I'd like to give a very big shout out to a gentleman named ABQC. Sent me a rather large donation last night, and I don't know why, because we weren't streaming or doing anything, but just if you are listening to this cast, or maybe you're watching this on the VOD, AVQC, I sent you an email. I just want to let you know I really appreciate that. Thank you so much to our friend from Australia. Secondly, again, I'll be taking off in just a moment, so Zombie, thank you for entertaining me here and having me on for that 3rd place match. I wish you the best of luck with the grand finals. I know I'll be watching it. It looks sick with Solar and Beyond lined up. But for those who are watching and interested, and if you're, again, this is the sponsor advertising, right? If you're from the United States, do us a favor and check out Ting. Maybe your phone bill right now could be reduced. Maybe you're on a contract and you can't even swap if you wanted to, but we know that we had a lot of people actually sign up for Ting after we finished Season 1, opposed to like while we ran Season 1. So currently, I think we're close to 30 was the number Jesse gave me. We're close to 30 people who have signed up and used Ting through BaseTradeTV for Season 2. If we can get 40, that will lead us to an eventual Season 3, which I've spoken with him, and I think we both agree like we should do that more towards the end of the year instead of right away afterwards. But we do want to get a Season 3. We want to throw another $5,000 at StarCraft, if at all possible. So, guys, make sure to check out bttv.ting.com. They recently lowered dates significantly on their data, so it's better than ever, frankly. And existing customers don't even have to do anything to change it. You're just good to go. It automatically applies. There's no, like, oh, well, you didn't sign up for the new package. No, Ting's really cool about stuff like this. So, hopefully, you'll see Jesse lurking around in chat at some point today. If you guys got questions, he'll be the guy to ask. But, Zombie, once again, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming on.
All right, well, have a good cast, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye. He definitely said dates instead of rates. I was gonna make fun of him for it, but you know what? He's having a tough time, so ideally he doesn't check the stream delay. I did message Beyond, so I was already in the chat, so that's cool. And Beyond says he'll be ready in 5 minutes because Beyond is fantastic to work with. And that means that this break will ideally not be a long one. Of course, we are going to show a couple of videos from our sponsor, Ting. Frifkin just did the spiel, but we're going to show a couple of extra videos. And they're nice and easy. If you've never seen them before, they're not too cheesy. They're just, the right amount of simple and nice. I think that it's perfectly fine. And if not, if you're not interested, if you're not from the US, et cetera, multiple reasons, this is the time to take a break, as the best of 9 finals between Beyond and Solar are ideally going to be pretty back and forth. I think everyone's going to give Beyond the edge here, but I don't think we're going to be having another 5-0 in the finals. But I also severely miscalculated yesterday in my bracket challenge as well. So maybe I should say I think it's going to be a 5-0, and then we'll get all 9 maps. That's how that works, right? Either way, I'll see you guys ideally in less than, let's say, 10 minutes. So take your break, enjoy the ads, enjoy the music, whatever comes on, and I'll see you then.